Right now, if you're saving into your pension through salary sacrifice, you could be about to lose a benefit that's worth thousands of pounds to you. And here's the thing, most people have absolutely no idea this is coming. I'm talking about one of the most significant changes to UK retirement planning in the last few years, and the autumn budget is about to drop the bombshell. If you're planning your retirement and you've been using salary sacrifice to turbocharge your pension contributions, you need to watch this because the rules might be about to change. Before we dive into the detail, go ahead and gently tap that subscribe button. The UK retirement landscape changes fast. From pensions and tax policy to property market news, Retirement Brief UK tracks and summarises the news impacting your future. Let me be clear from the start, this isn't certain yet. The Chancellor hasn't formally announced it. But according to reports from the Financial Times, The Times, and multiple tax advisors, Rachel Reeves is reportedly planning to cap salary sacrifice pension contributions at just £2,000 a year. That's the threshold above which you'd start paying national insurance again. For a lot of people, that's a game changer, and not in a good way. So first, let's talk about what salary sacrifice actually is and why it's been so brilliant for your retirement planning. When you sacrifice part of your salary for a pension contribution, two things happen that make it incredibly tax efficient. 1. You don't pay income tax on that part of your salary. 2. You don't pay national insurance on it either. Your employer doesn't pay their national insurance either. It's genuinely a win-win. Right now, there's no cap on this. None. A higher earner on £125,000 can sacrifice £25,000 a year into their pension, and as long as they stay below the annual allowance of £60,000, the national insurance exemption applies to every single pound. This matters because, frankly, national insurance at 2% for higher earners or 8% for those just above £50,000 is a real cost. When you remove it through salary sacrifice, you're effectively getting an extra boost to your pension. And when you're over 55, potentially looking at cutting your working life short, every pound counts. But that's exactly why the government is looking at this. They're looking at a £20 to £30 billion fiscal hole. They need money. And they're looking at pension tax relief, where research shows the combined cost of national insurance and income tax relief reaches approximately £52 billion a year. That's a target they can't ignore. Now here's where things get interesting. According to the rumoured changes, if they introduce a £2,000 cap, anything above that threshold becomes subject to national insurance again. Let me give you the real numbers because this is where it affects actual people. Take someone earning £45,000 who's been putting 5% of their salary into their pension through salary sacrifice. That's £2,250 a year. Under the current rules, they get the full national insurance relief on all of it. But under the proposed cap, that extra £250 above the £2,000 threshold becomes liable to national insurance. That's £30 in extra cost to them as an employee and £34 extra to their employer. Not earth-shattering for that salary level, but it's something. Now scale that up to a higher earner. Someone on £125,000 who's been doing exactly what the tax rules allow, sacrificing £25,000 a year to bring their taxable income below £100,000 to protect their child benefit entitlement. Under the proposed cap, that extra £23,000 above the threshold suddenly attracts national insurance. The employee faces an additional £460 a year in national insurance. The employer faces an additional £3,450. That's significant. That changes the economics of whether someone wants to make those higher contributions, and it changes whether an employer will continue to support salary sacrifice schemes with the same enthusiasm. And according to reported estimates, this change alone could generate around £2 billion a year for the government's coffers. Here's what concerns me most about this. Over 90% of employers, according to a recent BDO survey, think this change is coming. 90%. And that tells you something important. The business community has essentially read the room. They're not saying this might happen, they're preparing for it to happen. That's usually a reliable indicator in UK business planning. The research backing this up is solid too. HMRC itself published a report back in May testing different scenarios for reforming salary sacrifice. They looked at 3 options. One was removing the exemption entirely. That would have cost employers millions, so that's unlikely. The second was removing it, but allowing employers to opt in, again, politically challenging. But the third option, the £2,000 cap, that came across as workable to employers in the research. It felt fairer because people making smaller contributions wouldn't be affected. It was the least bad option, which in government speak usually means it's the one they'll probably choose. So what does this actually mean for your retirement plans? If you're someone who's been using salary sacrifice aggressively, and particularly if you're a higher earner who's been using it for tax planning, you need to think about this carefully. First, the financial impact is real. If you maintain the same level of contributions but start paying national insurance on the amounts above £2,000, your net contribution goes down. You get less pension pot growth. That extends your working life or means you retire on less. It's simple maths. Second, and this is important, your employer might start pulling back. Some employers have made salary sacrifice a centerpiece of their benefits offering. If the tax advantage shrinks and their national insurance bill goes up, they might be less generous about supporting higher levels of contribution. That could affect your future options too. Third, and this is the immediate one, you've got potentially a very narrow window to maximize contributions under the current rules while you still can. Now, the government hasn't officially announced this. The budget is on the 26th of November, and in theory they could announce something different. Reports suggest otherwise, but until it's official, there's uncertainty. That said, and I want to be honest with you here, if you're 55 and you've been thinking about making a one-off contribution or maximizing your contributions this tax year, you might want to have a serious think about it sooner rather than later. There are other tax-efficient ways to save for retirement if salary sacrifice becomes less attractive. You can make personal pension contributions. Those still get tax relief at your marginal rate. They're just not national insurance exempt. You can use your carry-forward allowance if you've underpaid into pensions in previous years. Depending on your circumstances, you could contribute up to £220,000 in a single year using carry-forward. That's substantial. There are also ISAs, though there's speculation about those being capped too. For now, you've got £20,000 a year tax-free growth. That's worth considering as part of a diversified approach to building wealth. But the salary sacrifice route, while it might still exist, wouldn't give you that national insurance exemption above the cap. Allegedly, and I want to use that word carefully because nothing's official yet, but allegedly, that changes the calculation significantly for higher earners. Here's what I think you should actually do. First, check what you're currently doing with salary sacrifice. If you're a basic rate taxpayer putting in a small amount, this might not change much for you, but if you're a higher earner making substantial contributions, you need to map out the numbers with your employer or a pension advisor. There's no harm in understanding your position clearly. Second, if you haven't maximized your previous year's carry-forward allowance, look into it now. According to the rules, you can go back 3 years and use any unused allowance. The maths on that could still look attractive, even if salary sacrifice changes. Third, don't panic. This is how pension policy works in the UK. It changes. It's inconvenient. It might cost you money. But people retire successfully despite policy changes all the time. The answer isn't to avoid pensions or to make rushed decisions based on speculation. The answer is to understand what's happening and plan accordingly. What I'm watching for on the 26th of November is whether the Chancellor actually announces this. Because here's the thing, reports have been remarkably consistent. Multiple sources, tax firms, employer surveys all pointing the same direction. But until it's official, it's still speculation. Once it is official, and assuming there's a transition period, which is usual, that's when you need to act if you're going to act. If you're someone who's been on the fence about making a contribution or adjusting your pension arrangements, the next few weeks matter. Not in a panic buy way, but in a let me understand the rules as they currently stand way. This is the kind of thing that affects thousands of people over 55 in the UK, quietly getting on with their retirement planning. You'll have seen headlines about the budget. You might have heard something about pensions, but salary sacrifice specifically, it doesn't hit the front pages the same way, which means a lot of people are about to find out about this change after the fact when they're already planning within the new rules. I'd rather you know about it now. This stuff is complex, but you don't have to navigate it alone. Get the information, make the decision, and plan accordingly. That's what matters. Were you already aware of the proposed salary sacrifice changes? Have you been speaking to your employer about the change? Or is it simply something that you aren't worried about? Either way, drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Retirement Brief UK for more essential updates on the UK retirement landscape. We cover everything from changes to the property market, summarising news on legislation changes and market trends to practical advice for homeowners and investors. Ring the notification bell so you never miss an update that could affect your retirement planning decisions. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.